Hi, my name is Grace Carlson in Stobie's third block class, and I do have some notes right here about the book. So if you see me looking at those, that's what that is. Today I want to talk about the book Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. Actually, I think this is the book that got him famous and like his writing very famous. He was a very celebrated screenwriter and author. He wrote many different works, different pieces, stuff like that. He wrote a lot of modes, fantasy, science fiction, realistic fiction, mystery, I believe. This book, however, takes place in a futuristic world where the government eliminates things that are controversial, like books, things that are controversial are very illegal. They're very frowned upon, very taboo. This book tells a story about a guy named Montag and how he went from being like this fireman to being a fireman and contributing to the government's way of reading of controversial and controversial and things that are like contradictions and don't like things that I wouldn't agree with, but you would agree with, things that are just people couldn't agree on. They got rid of those things. Like books, like one of those controversial things would be books. So his job as a fireman was to burn these books and get rid of them so that people couldn't read them and couldn't have them. And having books and reading books was very illegal. So he went from that firefighter to a book reading rebel whose goal was to stop oppression from the government. While the story progresses, Montag begins to realize how people aren't actually happy. And I believe that his suspicions about the world he lives in started with his conversation with Clarice, however you want to pronounce that. And they talked about whether or not Montag was truly happy. And he answered yes at the time when he was talking with Clarice. And he went back to that conversation and was like he wasn't actually happy and stuff like that. And the conversation seemed really important because after this, he then finds his wife overdosed, and it leads into this whole crazy thing about a blood transfusion, which was just weird and confusing in itself. And honestly, we would not find very normal. But like Clarice's name, because I'm gonna sidetrack, talk about Clarice a little. Clarice was really the only name that like seemed kind of more normal, because like Montag is not a very normal name, nor is Mildred, or I think the fireman's name is Captain Beatty. It is Captain Beatty, and so like none of those names seemed really like normal or like something I would name my child nowadays, but Clarice did. So I obviously was like, so does Clarice have any significant meaning? And Clarice actually means bright, and it is a name that stems from the Bible. And so I just thought that was a nice little sentiment to her name, that she was bright, and she started that chain reaction of Montag figuring out that the world isn't how it seems. And she was bright. Clarice was bright, and she really stood out to everyone. So I thought I would just put a little note in there for that. After the talk with Clarice and his wife overdosing, Montag becomes a little more aware of what's happening in the world around him. He was shocked when he went to go and I believe arrest, but the fire alarm went off. They went to go see if this woman had books or not, to burn the books if she did have books, and this woman ended up killing herself for said books. One of these books which he takes, and we later learn gets him into some trouble. And he actually this was not the first book he had taken, so during his job, which is not allowed. Him taking the book or books causes some strain on his relationship with Captain Beatty. But he sets out anyway to read the books, with the said rule that the firemen can have a book for 24 hours and then they have to burn the book because, again, it's not allowed. But they can read it, you just can't keep it forever. When he does seek to fulfill this desire to read the books, it of course causes something to stir with his wife Mildred, and Mildred gets very upset over the fact that he is wanting to read these books. She is very angry, very scared, especially once he starts pulling more books away from where he had them hidden, and she's not very happy with him. She starts destroying his books later in this novel. This is actually a dystopian novel. Forgot about that. One day, Montag gets really upset and is really mad that Mildred and her friends are being really self-centered, very, very rude, and talking about their husbands like they are nothing. And so he starts reading to them in the parlor. He starts reading one of the books. I think it's poems. He starts reading a poem to Mildred and her friends in the parlor, and they of course turned him in and stuff like that. And he does this. He reads them this poem from this book to show them how shallow they were being and to enact a reaction from them, which he did get. He got one of the women to cry and be very upset. We get to the climax where the fire alarm goes off and they pull up to Montag's house, and Captain Beatty proceeds to tell Montag to burn his own house down. So they ended up, the women and Mildred turned him in because the women were like, he has books and he still has them. He still has these books. So they, of course, the firemen get called to the house, and Captain Beatty's like, burn your own house down, and Montag is not okay with that. So instead of Montag burning his own house down, he kills Captain Beatty. He sets him on fire with the flamethrower, or the whatever they used to, I believe it's a flamethrower that they used to set the houses on fire with. And then he proceeds to flee the scene once he kills Captain Beatty because no one wants to get caught for murder. And honestly, the next part kind of made me very sad because someone does get killed for Montag's actions. The government or the police, whoever it was, killed a innocent bystander or innocent person walking on the street because of Montag killing Captain Beatty and not setting his own house on fire. Which obviously made Montag very sad. It's very saddening to me. It goes to show that it didn't matter who you were going to follow the rules regardless, or follow the set rules that the government had for you regardless. When Montag escapes the city because he flees the scene, and he obviously can't stay in the city anymore because he would most definitely get caught. He flees the scene and ends up meeting a group of book reading rebels who memorize the books that they read, to keep the knowledge of books and what's in the books alive. And these book reading rebels are trying to stop the oppressive government, or oppressive society, oppressive government, however you want to phrase that. The novel ends with a bombing ends with a bomb hitting the city, and the group of book memorizers and Montag set out to rebuild the city into something new and hopefully something better. So, I mean, I don't know how well that would work, because I'm not sure if this was no book reading was isolated to one area or not, but if it was, they're trying to make better, or make the situation better, and rebuild the city into something new where people can read books, people can talk about controversial stuff like that. The theme of the novel would probably have to be something along the lines of ignorance. Out of sight, out of mind, you know what I mean? And final C is not there. And people in the book were very ignorant and there's a battle even going on today to be genuine, whether kids my age want to be genuine or have individuality over fitting in with the norms or the social cues. Honestly, though, I did really enjoy the book. I thought I've never read anything with this kind of reading style at all. I would give it a 7 out of 10 just for that, because while I liked the writing style and I've never read anything like that before, it was kind of hard to understand at some points with so many metaphors, allusions, and stuff like that. Overall, it was a great book, and I was shocked to know that it was made before we really had this much technology that was displayed in the book. There was some technology used in the book, like it talked about the shell beads or whatever, and it talked about televisions on the walls and stuff like that. And they didn't have that much technology back then, so it shocked me to know that this book was that old. But it really showed how far, as people, we could take things in a negative way if we wanted to. If we really wanted to go this far, we could, if we really set out to go that far. Or be that bad, I guess. So, that's it. And once again, this is Fahrenheit 451, by a dystopian novel by Ray Bradbury.